You slept last night, maybe even a full 8 hours. And yet this morning, when the alarm went off, something in you sank. Not because you were still sleepy exactly, but because the idea of doing it all again, the emails, the conversations, the performing, the managing, the showing up, felt like being asked to carry something very heavy before you had even gotten out of bed. And you have felt this before, many times. You have felt tired in the middle of a vacation, tired after a weekend with nothing planned, tired in moments when, by every logical measure, you should feel fine. So you start to wonder, am I lazy? Am I weak? Is something wrong with me? Take a breath. Stay here for a moment. Because what you are feeling is real, and it is not laziness, not even close. The world has a very simple story about tiredness. It says that tired means you need sleep. And if you slept and you are still tired, then you are either sick or you are not trying hard enough. That story is incomplete. And for a lot of people, it causes a layer of shame on top of an exhaustion that is already heavy enough on its own. Because there is a kind of tiredness that sleep cannot fix, and psychology has been studying it for a long time. There is a concept called emotional labor. It was first named by sociologist Arlie Hochschild, and it describes the work of managing your feelings and the feelings of people around you as a form of real, measurable effort. Every time you smile when you don't feel like smiling, every time you soften your words so someone else isn't uncomfortable, every time you swallow what you actually feel and replace it with what the situation seems to require. That is labor. It costs something. It draws from a real internal resource. And here's the thing about emotional labor. It is invisible. Nobody sees it happening, nobody thanks you for it, nobody tells you to take a break from it, and so it just keeps running, quietly draining you in the background. The way an app left open on your phone drains the battery without you realizing it. By the end of a day filled with emotional labor, you can be completely exhausted without having done anything that looks exhausting from the outside. And that gap between how tired you feel and how tired you look like you should be is where the shame creeps in. But emotional labor is only part of the picture. Psychologists also talk about something called chronic stress and its effect on the nervous system. When your body experiences stress, not just the dramatic, obvious kind, but the low-grade, constant kind, it releases a hormone called cortisol. In small doses, cortisol is useful. It sharpens your focus, it gets you moving. But when stress is constant, cortisol stays elevated. And over time, that sustained elevation begins to wear the body down in very real ways. It disrupts sleep, so even when you do sleep, the rest is not fully restorative. It affects mood. It clouds thinking. It makes everything feel slightly harder than it should. This is called allostatic load. Think of it like this. Imagine your body is a ship. Every stressor, every worry, every conflict, every demand, every moment of not feeling safe adds a small amount of water to the hull. 1 cup of water doesn't sink a ship, but cup after cup after cup, over months and years, and eventually the ship is riding very low in the water. It is still moving, it is still functioning, but everything takes more effort than it used to, and it feels like it is only one wave away from going under. That heaviness you carry is not weakness. It is accumulated weight that has been building for a very long time. And for many people who feel this kind of bone-deep tiredness, the weight started accumulating long before adulthood. Think about what it takes to grow up in an environment where you had to be constantly alert, where the emotional temperature of the house could shift without warning, where you learned early that your job was not just to be a child, but to read the room, manage the tension, keep the peace. That kind of childhood does not end when childhood ends. It lives in the nervous system. It becomes the default setting. Your body learned to stay on, to keep scanning, to never fully power down. And a body that never powers down is a body that is always, in some quiet way, running on empty. There is also something that rarely gets talked about in conversations about tiredness, and that is the exhaustion of not being fully yourself. When you spend a significant portion of your life performing, being the version of yourself that others need, hiding the parts that feel too complicated or too much, editing yourself before you speak, that performance takes energy. Real energy. The kind that doesn't refill with a good night's sleep. Psychologists call this self-concealment, the ongoing effort of keeping parts of yourself hidden, and research shows that it is genuinely depleting, not metaphorically, physiologically. The body works harder when it is hiding something. The mind works harder when it is managing a gap between who you are and who you are presenting yourself to be. You are not tired because you are lazy. You are tired because you have been living as two people at once. The real you and the version of you that you decided was safe enough to show the world. So what does any of this mean for you, practically? I am not going to hand you a list of sleep hygiene tips. You have read those. They are not the problem, and they are not the solution. What I want to offer instead is something smaller and more honest. Start by giving your tiredness the dignity of being real. Stop calling it laziness. Stop apologizing for it. Stop pushing through it as though the pushing itself will make it go away. It won't. You cannot outwork an exhaustion that lives this deep. Instead, get curious about it. The next time you feel that heavy, sinking feeling, sit with it for a moment and ask, what kind of tired is this? Is it the tiredness of having given too much to other people and nothing to yourself? Is it the tiredness of performing, of managing, of pretending? Is it the tiredness of carrying old weight that was never yours to carry in the first place? Naming it does not fix it, but it stops the shame from piling on top of it. And shame is its own kind of exhaustion. And then, slowly, begin to look for the places where you are leaking energy without knowing it. The relationships where you give endlessly and receive very little. The situations where you shrink yourself to make others comfortable. The internal voice that is constantly criticizing, monitoring, and managing you. These are the open apps draining your battery. You cannot get more energy until you start closing some of them. This is slow work. It does not happen in a weekend, but it begins with one honest moment where you stop blaming yourself for being tired and start asking what the tiredness is actually trying to tell you. Because your tiredness is not a character flaw, it is a message, and it has been trying to reach you for a very long time. You are not lazy. You are not weak. You are not someone who just needs to try harder or want it more. You are someone whose body and mind have been working overtime for years, often in ways that nobody around you could see. You have been carrying things quietly, performing steadily, staying strong in all the moments when falling apart would have been so much easier. That takes an enormous amount out of a person. Of course you are tired. Think of yourself not as someone who is failing to keep up, but as someone who has been running a very long race without ever being told that rest stops were allowed. They are allowed. You are allowed to stop. To put things down, to say, I have done enough today, and mean it without guilt. Take a breath. Let your body be heavy for just a moment without making it mean something bad about you. Your tiredness is not the enemy. It is the most honest thing about you. It is your body finally telling the truth about how much you have been carrying. You are allowed to set some of it down. Rest is not a reward for finishing everything. Rest is something you are allowed to have right now, exactly as you are, tired and all.